It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Testmiles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive radio experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to America's Automotive Radio Show, keeping you connected on FM News 101 KXL. Testmiles, locally created, nationally celebrated. Coming up on this morning's broadcast, we'll be talking about cars that we've been driving. Special guests Terry and Oliver Holler, who built a Back to the Future DeLorean. John Vincent from the Portland Tribune. And Jeff Zerschmied, the editor-in-chief from Testmiles and a writer at the Oregonian in the automotive department. We'll be discussing the Chicago Auto Show, which many of us at the show went to, and we'll find out about Kia's first dedicated hybrid vehicle. I have been driving the Honda Civic, which I think Brad and Sean have both been in. I love it. I have to say that I did really, really like it. America's car of the year, the North American car of the year, really made such a huge difference. I have friends who own the previous versions of this vehicle, 1.5 litre or a 2 litre 4-cylinder, up to 174 horsepower, CVT transmission. Found it had lots of get up and go, really did. It does have there, of course, their Valve Tech technology in there, a lot of cool IV Tech stuff on the inside in the engine. It has up to 42 miles a gallon, 6 trim levels. I think they've done a great job with it. I don't think there's anything incredible about it. I just think it's nice. It's nicely done.
I agree with you on that.
And it was well powered.
There's just nothing that pops out at you, but there's nothing to complain about either.
Right. That's the thing.
That's a Honda.
I think what happens is if you have things to complain about, people don't like it so much. I think it deserves North American Car of the Year. It starts at $18,600, and you can spend up to $26,500, which I think will get you a pretty fancy version of that. I'm glad they got rid of the 2 screens. I still don't like the radio in it where there's no buttons at all. It's all sort of touch screen stuff. But at least they didn't go to the push button transmission like they've gone to in a lot of the Honda vehicles, because that drives me nuts.
One thing I really did like about that, and a new feature, is how you could actually control the volume on the steering wheel. It's kind of a not a scrolly wheel, but a slide pad like you're on your phone.
Right.
And it was a nice feature. It's all riveted, and it's just easy to control.
Really like the new Honda Civic. Go test drive it if you're in a market for a subcompact vehicle. All right, so remember the 1985 sci-fi comedy Back to the Future? Most people think Michael J. Fox was the star of the movie, but at Testmiles, we think the real star of the movie was that DeLorean car. They used it to go back in time and forward in time. And on the phone with us now, husband and wife team Terry and Oliver Holler, who are driving across the country in their hand-built Back to the Future DeLorean. You'll be able to see it in this week's Portland Wizard Comic-Con at the Oregon Convention Center. Hi, guys. Where did you get to so far?
Hey, Nick. We're
just outside of Kansas City, Missouri.
Excellent.
Get some barbecue for us.
Yeah, really. Bring barbecue to Portland when you're on your way. All right, so let's talk about how you guys decided to build this car. We know that you're driving across the country in this vehicle. First of all, how's the vehicle doing? Because you guys built this vehicle. Is it holding together, or do you have extra glue with you just in case something falls off?
Special DeLorean glue. No, it's doing great. The car itself has over 600,000 miles on it. So they really are wonderful cars.
Excellent. What inspired you to build this car?
Well, we both love the movie Back to the Future. And I would assume most people that watch the film, when that car comes out of the back of Doc Brown's van, you got to think to yourself, wow, wouldn't that be fun to drive? So years later, we made that dream happen for ourselves.
How long did this take you?
Well, it's still taking us. How many years have we been doing this?
16 years.
Wait, have you got all the wheels on?
All the wheels are on.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. That's a good start.
So you built this, without any specs, right? I mean, I can't imagine you knew anybody in the movie business who could get you the specs for this thing. How did you figure out what to do on it?
We referenced the movie. We just spent hours watching it, taking screen captures while it was a Polaroid picture as the screen was paused from the videotape.
Now, how much time have you actually spent driving the car?
Oh, that's a great question. We're on the road, I would say,
80% of the year.
Yeah.
So it's probably really nice as a couple to share a passion to be that close to one another in a DeLorean for that long.
Yes, indeed. It's nice that we like each other.
Yeah, because I'm not sure.
Very forgiving.
I'm not sure my
Very
relationship.
forgiving co-pilot.
My relationship may not survive the 80% of the time in the car together, just inches apart from each other. So you also raised a lot of money with this car, and you built it, and you've raised money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. How did that sort of all come about? Why did you decide to make it into a charity venture, and how much money have you raised?
When Oliver came to me and said he really wanted to build a time machine, I said, that's a great idea, but don't let it sit in the driveway. And what we found was that Michael J. Fox was building his foundation about the same time we were building our car.
And, as we drove the car, we noticed it got a lot of attention. And we thought, well, if we can kind of convert that attention towards something positive, then it would be a win-win situation.
Yep, and we're reaching $250,000 for. We surpassed it.
$350,000 now.
Oh my goodness, $350,000.
Wow. So the question I've got is, why couldn't you just take that flux capacitor, set it for Thursday, and be in Portland without having to drive across the country?
Well, with the snowstorm we just went through, yeah, I guess that would be a wonderful thing. But remember, it's a movie car, and we do live in reality.
Now my dreams are dashed on the rocks of hope. You just drove through a snowstorm. How did it do?
Oh, very well. We had one bit of incident before the snowstorm. There was a large piece of steel debris that crossed the entire lane, and there was no avoiding it. So we struck that big piece of steel and did a little bit of damage to the front bumper and tore a bracket. But it's nothing that can't be fixed.
You have that super DeLorean glue. I know you just fixed it right there. Now, what happens when you get here? The WizardCon happens next weekend. The Wizard Comic Con here in Portland happens next weekend. What do you do typically when you show up with these vehicles? Where do they go? What do you do with them? How do the public interact? And can they donate to the charity?
Well, the first thing is it's going to need a bath. It's full of road salt and grime and debris. 3,000 miles worth of dirt.
We'll set up our backdrop in our booth. We've got a wonderful clock tower backdrop. Set up the car. We'll have the hoverboard available and offer photo ops. So for a donation, you get to have a photo with our camera, and we'll take photos with the guest cameras, and we just have a whole lot of fun.
All right. Go on.
Donations themselves can be sent to the michaeljfox.org online.
Excellent.
It's very easy. Or you can, if you see us, you can donate in person.
And with tax day approaching, of course, this is all tax deductible. So you can get your picture taken, have a nice souvenir, and tax deductible. We look forward to seeing you guys. What a great adventure! What a great life! I sometimes wonder if I haven't chosen a much harder life than I could have done. I think driving across the country in a Back to the Future DeLorean might be a whole lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate the time that you've given us to talk about it.
All right. So thanks so much, guys, and good luck with the rest of your journey. We'll look forward to seeing you arrive here in Portland, Oregon, coming up in the next few days. And, of course, Wizard Comic-Con.
Wizard Comic-Con over at the Oregon Convention Center.
Yeah, that arrives this week. When we return on Testmiles, we are going to be taking a look at what happened at the Chicago Auto Show. Jen, Sean, Brad was the only one that wasn't here. Jen, Sean, John from the Portland Tribune, and Jeff Zerschmied, they were all there. I was there. And I think I came back with most of my appendages. That's how cold it was in Chicago. We'll tell you what happened at the Chicago Auto Show that opens to the public this weekend. It's Testmiles at FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Testmiles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. Testmiles.com.
Staying connected. FM News 101 KXL with the automotive world. You're listening to Portland's #1 car show, Testmiles. Thank you for being with us and heading into our third year of broadcasting.
In honor of Valentine's Day, we have the top 3 picks for smooching in a car for 2016. That's Jaguar F-Type, Lexus RCF, and the CT6 by Cadillac.
And I have to agree. I've smooched in all of them. Just with my hand, and it was very comfortable doing that. All right, so Sean, what have you been driving?
I've been driving the Toyota Tacoma. Comes in 2 different engine types, a 2-liter, 2.7-liter, 159 horsepower 4-cylinder, also a 3.5-liter V6 that has 278 horsepower. Comes in a 6-speed auto, and also one of the few trucks now that does have a 5-speed manual transmission in it, which is very rare now. Comes in a 4x2 and a 4x4. You can get 19 and 24 miles to the gallon. Competition is the Chevy Colorado, Nissan Frontier, GMC Canyon. Comes in a bunch of trim levels like SR, SR5, TRD Off-Road, and a Limited. Some of the tech is the crawl features or crawl controls, which allows you to basically go over any terrain. You just steer, basically. It does all the throttle response and braking. So you let the truck do it. You just steer where you want it to go, and it will guide it. Also has a hill descent on it, where if you're off-roading going up a steep hill, it won't allow you to slide backwards or anything. It just locks the wheels and waits till you accelerate going up it. Driving impression, I think, on this car is I love it going off-road. I took it up to Mount Hood, and it handled the snow great. It also rides really easily, and it's a very comfortable ride, easy to steer. Some of the good on it, there's just a lot of good things, but for me, like the deck rail systems they have, where you can adjust where your rail system or your tie downs in the bed are, it's easy. If you're hauling something, you can actually control where you tie everything down instead of trying to figure it out and having loose gaps in there. Base price is $23,300, and you can top them out at $38,000.
Excellent.
But it's a great truck.
I really enjoyed it too. It has that GoPro mount on the inside as well for your GoPro camera, but it's got some stiff competition and more competition coming into the marketplace. So I think the only thing lacking in that car when I drove it was the tech. The biggest auto show in North America opened this weekend in Chicago, 1 million square feet, 1,000 cars, indoor driving tracks, because it was as cold as 1 degree at times outside, and of course, new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Joining us in the studio are regular friends of the show, Jeff Zerschmied, who is the editor-in-chief at Testmiles.com and also writes for the Oregonian, and John Vincent, who is at the Portland Tribune doing their automotive, as well as many other hats he wears over there. John, Jeff, tell me what you got excited about at the show. Was it just the weather, or was there a lot more?
No, there was plenty to be excited about at the show. I thought perhaps the most significant launch that we saw at the Chicago Auto Show this year was the new Kia Niro. It is a compact SUV, and it's a hybrid. So joining the RAV4 hybrid and some others, compact SUVs are now the largest single segment selling in the United States. So they've outpaced midsize sedans, and there were some hybrids there too from Kia. But I thought that was a brilliant move from Kia, and the car looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're actually going to have somebody on from Kia to tell us about that in a little while. I did also notice some interesting stats that came out this week, where that light trucks, which includes pickups and those SUVs, will outsell cars by 25% in 2016, which is a significant jump. John, what excited you at the show?
Well, back to the Niro for just a second. It's interesting product placement because they're calling it a CUV, but it's a low-slung, front-wheel drive, small station wagon that has very little CUV in it.
You know, station wagon's a dirty word in North America.
I know, and that's why they're calling it a CUV.
Doesn't help sell cars, unfortunately, and purpose-built hybrid as well. I think it's interesting. That size, the same as the BMW X1, the same as the Mazda CX-3, is becoming highly popular. I do know one of the problems with that size is that it significantly costs more to make than you make profit on them. So they're a touchy class to get into.
Going to the opposite end of the spectrum, the new Ram Power Wagon is just awesome. Yep.
It was pretty much made with testosterone, that vehicle.
They put the Rebel grill on it. They worked on the suspension. They put some retro features on, including some retro badges from the 80s. The thing looks fantastic.
Winches front and back. Yeah. Drove it down the stairs just to show off that they could when they introduced it. Yeah, they did a good job.
As they put in their press release, the winch on the front is 12,000 pounds, so it can you can hang other pickup trucks off it.
Right. They like to, and then apparently there is an exhibition of doing that, hanging other pickup trucks off that front winch. But they also like to say, when you come across a vehicle that's maybe not as capable as the Ram Power Wagon, you could tow it out of the snow or the mud or the dirt, which is kind of funny. I don't know what a market that vehicle has. I mean, it's great to see, and I know girls drive trucks too, but it's not as much of a truck as you would think could be a family vehicle. Really, it's not. I mean, I can't imagine you taking your family out to dinner, with that.
It is purpose built.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for going out and hooning around and having a good time. It's not your working truck.
Let's talk about the Nissan Armada, because we all went out there and went to the Nissan Armada launch. It was a special party where they showed the car off for the first time. I will tell you, I was surprised at the vehicle. I didn't know how much more they could do to it. The back end has been completely redesigned, much nicer looking. The front end, they didn't mess with too much, but cleaned it up.
It is actually completely new and goes to a different platform, goes to the same platform that the Infiniti QX80 is on.
Right.
They're moving production from Mississippi back to Japan because they need the production capability for pickup trucks in Mississippi. And so it goes on a platform that they've had for a vehicle around the world called the Nissan Patrol, which is a very long-standing, venerable nameplate around the world for them.
I think that's a great idea because, of course, as we talked about at the top of the show, top of the segment, Americans are buying more light trucks, which is those mid-size SUVs, CUVs, and that means that they need that production facility for their Murano, for their Rogue. They need room to make those cars. They're growing segments. But I think there's still need for the Armada. I mean, America's really had that segment, and they own that segment of the large SUV. There are very few full-size SUVs that are made outside from outside North America.
Well, Nissan put a lot into the interior of the new Armada as well, and it turned out well. It's a nice, luxurious vehicle, and maybe it'll come in a little bit lower price point than the QX80 and provide an alternative to the real high-end full-size SUVs.
That's just in a few minutes, or the minute we have left, just talk a little bit about Chicago Auto Show as a whole. This comes so close to Detroit that a lot of automakers don't release cars there. It's a very trim truck market. You guys are going to be back in the last segment of the show. We can talk about some of the cars that were shown, but it really is one of those shows which is consumer-driven much more than the shows that we see that are product-driven, right?
Yes, it is. And when they say it's the largest auto show in North America, it is in square footage larger than Detroit, LA, and New York put together.
Yeah, it's a pretty big auto show, and my legs will tell you how big it is as well. And temperatures, of course, so you wander outside, completely freezing. It's unbelievable that I have a video on my Facebook page where you can see the water in my car is frozen overnight in the hotel parking lot of the vehicle. When we come back, we'll talk about that new Kia Niro. This is Testmiles, FM News 101 KXL. I am Nick Miles.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com.
Keeping you connected to the automotive world, you're listening to Testmiles, FM News 101 KXL. This is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, please find us on Twitter at Testmiles.
Another Valentine's fun fact for you. Actor Ron Howard names his children after the locations that they were conceived, except for Reed Cross. He was named after the streets in London because he didn't want his son to be named Volvo.
Now we know where Reed, poor Reed, by the way. I think poor kid, knowing that I was conceived in a Volvo on Reed Cross Street in London.
At least it was probably comfortable in the back.
I feel bad for him. All right, happy Valentine's Day. Brad, what have you been driving?
I seldom get to use a line from the A-Team, but I'm going to now. I love it when a plan comes together. So I had a bunch of running around to do a couple weeks ago when I was given this car as my test car, and it was the Camry Hybrid. And I know gas prices are low, but I spent $13 after driving all over the place. It remarkably well. In town, it gets 43 miles to the gallon. And so over the past 20 years, Toyota has sold 8 million hybrids. So they kind of know what they're doing on this. And with the Camry, it really does demonstrate that. And their hybrid Synergy drive, again, generates 43 miles to the gallon and 200 horsepower. It's got an interesting couple of modes. One is the eco mode, which you drive in most of the time. That optimizes your throttle and your air conditioning so that maximizes your MPG. But it does have an EV mode that solely runs on the electric motor if you're I guess, driving around a parking lot under 25 miles an hour. And it goes for about a mile and a half.
Or down I-84 during rush
Good
hour.
point. Excellent point, actually. So the car itself was extensively updated in 2015, and they tweaked a couple of things and made a higher-end vehicle. And this used to be the choice with a lot of companies, but with the Fusion and the Kias and the Hyundais hitting this marketplace, it's even more competitive. So, but what this car does, it's smooth, quiet, spacious, everything you expect out of a Toyota Camry. And I'm not saying it's an old guy car, but it does have really simple to use, large, intuitive dials. They work well. So price range and for the gas model is like 21 to 28, hybrid 24.6 to 28,000. But it was a really comfortable, really Toyota car to drive.
What I got from that was when it's not an old guy's car, but the old guy on the show gives it a thumbs up.
Absolutely.
So old guys like it. All right, you might think that Kia is best known for being a challenger brand or being the company that does the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on new cars. But soon, your perception of the company may change. They are making big moves towards becoming a green company. The car company will have 11 hybrids on the market in the future, and they already have the Kia Optima hybrid, a new one announced in Chicago, and a Kia Optima plug-in hybrid as well. But they had something quite significant. We mentioned in the last segment their new Kia Niro, which is a hybrid. Joining us from Kia is Steve. Steve, tell us a little bit about why you guys decided to create a hybrid-only platform.
Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for the chance to join you. The dedicated eco platform is something that we've had an eye on for many years. We've had several derivative models. You mentioned the Optima hybrid and even the Soul EV, which those cars are based on existing gasoline models. But in an attempt to optimize the way the car drives and feels and even looks, our engineers created a dedicated eco car platform. And this allows for the incorporation of lots of technologies, powertrain technologies, the battery and so forth, to be specific to a hybridized or electrified application.
That's a great idea because, of course, a lot more people looking for greener cars. And I know fuel prices are low, but we know they're not going to stay there forever. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is the Testmiles. We're talking to Steve Kakowski from Kia about the new Niro. Steve, I'm hearing numbers thrown around there like 50 miles a gallon. Is that possibly true?
That's true. It's an estimate, of course, and the car is going through final certification and the final parts of the development. But the target is 50 miles per gallon, and we're confident we're going to be there. The car has the mass reduction, the really, really efficient powertrain, a 43 horsepower electric motor, the aerodynamics, and so forth, and all of the technology stacked on top of each other should get us to 50 miles per gallon.
Tell me a little bit about what you think Americans want. What do they want in a hybrid, and how are Kia matching that?
Well, this is interesting because when we did the research and the upfront planning for the car, one thing that was really clear was they wanted distinctive design, which the car has. They didn't want it to look weird. They wanted it to drive normal, and that's evident in the powertrain that we have. It drives very normally. It feels fun to drive. It's torquey. It's not sloppy. And then it's all wrapped up in a design and an aesthetic that reflects utility vehicle cues, CUV cues. And as you've been talking a little earlier in the program, CUVs and SUVs are just in such strong demand. So what we think what this car brings to market is a CUV aesthetic. It looks really cool. It doesn't look weird. And it drives wonderfully. So we think that's what people want.
You guys actually have a little bit of a reputation for already doing that. I mean, even the Soul EV didn't feel so much like an EV. It didn't get the best fuel economy out of some of the electrics, but it drove much more like a real car. And I hear that complaint from a lot of people is I don't want to look like I'm driving a hybrid. I don't want to feel like I'm driving a hybrid. I just like the fuel economy benefits of that. So it's clearly where you're going for. Are you still using the lithium polymer battery style that you sort of invented at the company?
Yes, we are. In fact, we continue to develop and evolve the lithium-ion polymer batteries that go into the hybrids and the EVs. And we like it because it allows for a compact package and lightweight, which enables, in the case of the Niro, it enables a nice, generous cargo area because the battery package is so nice and small under the rear seat of the car. And again, it's lightweight, which helps, fuel efficiency and dynamics and things like that.
Are you going to bring out a bunch of new tech with the vehicle? Because, of course, the green is not going to be enough to just sell the vehicle. Everyone is looking for the next new feature, the Wi-Fi hotspot, all those type of things. Will that be something that the car will have when it comes to market?
Yes, it will, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a great crew of engineers in California and in Korea who are constantly innovating. And with the Niro, we're going to have, we're introducing something called Ego DAS, which is a driver assistance system. And in particular, on the Niro, we have something called predictive energy control. And what that does is it helps maximize fuel efficiency by optimizing the energy in the car. So, for example, if you put your destination in the Navi and the car knows the topography of the surfaces, it will expend electrical energy, on an uphill ascent because it knows that there's a descent coming and it can capture that kinetic energy. It's little things like that that are going to be new features that customers will appreciate. And then on top of it, we have our award-winning UVO connectivity. And in this case, it's even more advanced than iterations you've seen in the past.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. All right, final question for you, Steve. When and how much?
So when, it'll be about 11 months from now in January of 2017. And the pricing we haven't announced yet, but we'll announce it when we get a little closer to launch.
Steve Kukowski, thank you for joining us from Kia. We're looking forward to the car. I'm looking forward to the first drive of the vehicle, and we'll monitor the progress. When we come back on Testmiles, we're going to talk about the Chicago Auto Show, a little more of the vehicles that were released there, and some of the surprises of the show. There weren't that many, but the ones that they did have, for instance, the new Camaro 1LE that does 1G off of the grid, well, that'll shock you. I'm Nick Miles. This is Testmiles.
Testmiles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. Testmiles.com.
Oh, live in our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning. This is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about car, we have a Facebook page as well. You can see all the latest car news there at Testmiles ENT, and that's on Facebook.
The Rolls-Royce Spirit of Ecstasy emblem holds a secret of Lord Bolu.
Got it right. Yay!
And his secret love affair to Eleanor Thornton, which was hidden over a decade.
Yeah, so if you're wondering what that was all about, poor Jen was stressing over pronouncing the name of the Lord probably for the last half an hour.
Well, it took all of us to pronounce it. We were sitting here trying to figure it out.
Yeah, the Spirit of Ecstasy was his mistress, apparently. He designed it after her, and that was, we thought, very apt for Valentine's Day. Jeff Zerschmied is in the studio. He is the editor-in-chief at Testmiles and also writes for the Oregonian. John Vincent is here from the Portland Tribune. We're talking about the Chicago International Auto Show, which opened to showgoers this weekend. Gentlemen, there's quite a few cars that we haven't talked about. Not significant a number of new released vehicles, but there was two I want to talk about from Chevy. Or that Chevy had a number of. They had the Black Series, which was their trucks, which is really a trim level. They also had this Chevy 1LE trim level on the Camaro, which this Camaro is kind of an interesting idea, sort of a track version of the Camaro that they came out with. It does 1G off of the pad, and that's same as a Boeing 707. Really a lot of fun stuff on the vehicle for people who might want to take it on the track, not necessarily meant as an everyday driver.
Yeah, the real big news about that was that they extended it to the V6 model. Now, the V6 Camaro has 335 horsepower, which is, about where we were with the top V8s 10 years ago. Right. So, but they gave it the suspension package, and that the 1LE really is a suspension and handling package. And they put that in with the V6 and the manual transmission in that. It's just going to be a delightful car. The V6
definitely for Camaro fans who want to do a little more racing.
Yeah, the 1LE came out last year for the V8 powered cars, the SS. But now this time it's brand new in the V6, and that's just going to be huge.
All right, here's the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. Chevy come out with this small, compact CUV called the Trax. Nobody liked it. It didn't sell well. It was one of my least favorite vehicles of the year. Was a little bit unhappy with it, I would say, as far as a vehicle is concerned. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It was just uninspiring, and it didn't. If you bought it, I'm sure it was good. It lasted a long time. But it was uninspiring, and really in a segment where you're getting a lot of millennials getting into this segment, where young families are starting out. They want a car that has a lot of tech in it. They want a car that has a lot of features in it, and they don't want to pay a big price. I think this car fell short. But somehow, quietly, Chevy released this new vehicle at Chicago, the new version of the Trax. Is this going to be what the Trax should have been the first time around?
Well, apparently the folks at Chevy listen to Testmiles and know your complaints, and listen to your complaints because the Trax received a very rapid refresh, both in looks and in content. We'll see whether it's enough because that is a very crowded segment of the subcompact SUV. But if they put the right tech in it with the right price, it should do well again.
Americans just don't seem to do well in making small cars. I mean, it's something that the Japanese and the Koreans do so much better than Americans. And Americans make amazing trucks, amazing large cars, amazing SUVs. But the smaller you get, the harder we have to make them work.
Chevy actually had a great small sedan several years ago, the
Prism?
The Prism LSI. Great.
Right.
It was built by Toyota.
Right. And then there's the problem. They just, we don't, our DNA does not include small cars.
Our heart's not in it. Our hearts, where do our hearts truly lie? They lie in a big truck.
And I'll tell you one of the things about this is that Titan is a challenge to that. Titan will get a challenge to the trucks, but you'll have a hard time getting a challenge on anything apart from a Titan, anything apart from, Armada they've always had troubles with the Armada, the QX80 from Infiniti. You can't really win in those segments. They do a great car, but big still belongs to America.
Although Hyundai showed a refresh of their big SUV, and it looks like it's going to do really well. They showed a refresh of the Santa Fe and Santa Fe Sport. The Santa Fe is their big one, and it's a very nice vehicle.
The biggest thing for me on that is the third row passengers don't have to be a third-class citizen anymore. We have plug-in power. We have legroom in the back. You have nice seats. You have cup holders, whereas the third row never got those. So and there's some listening going on there, especially with the USB ports. Who rides in the back of the third row? It is always the little kids. What do you need to do to keep a little kid quiet? Give them an iPad, give them a phone. Finally, somebody actually got that.
And they teched up the safety a whole lot, gave it features that a couple of years ago you would have found on a Mercedes M-Class. You're now finding on a Hyundai Santa Fe.
Ford actually also listening, coming out with a new trim level on the Explorer. They did this new Explorer, the XLT. The idea was it can look like a sport, but it doesn't have to have the engine and all of the technology under the sheet metal, but it can look cool as well. And I think that's what a lot of Americans want. I think Dodge got that with the Durango when they came out with the Rally version, which looked like the RT, but didn't have all of the engine changes. So you could look like you have a cool car, but it doesn't have to do 0 to 60, and it doesn't have to have the engine capabilities.
In that same vein, they also brought out a new version of the Explorer for people in wheelchairs because not everybody who has a wheelchair wants to have a minivan.
And the Brawnability you're talking about.
The Brawnability Explorer.
The thing about the Brawnability, which is, to me, they've just a home run for them, is the fact that you take a minivan, you go and have it converted and decked out with everything you want into a wheelchair, town and country, which may not have been the best choice that you wanted to drive if you're an 18-year-old recipient of a ski accident or a surf accident. You may not be wanting to drive that. $120,000 is what you might be sinking into that vehicle. Oh, yeah. This $60,000 from the factory, all completely wheelchaired out and designed by a surfer who had problems, who was in a wheelchair. So you find that the people who are going to be driving these cars, and let me tell you, I probably prefer to be in an Explorer than I would prefer to be in a town and country minivan if I'm a 20-something, 30-something year old that's probably where I want to be. Other vehicles, the Sprinter, the new Worker released. This is a $32,000 Sprinter that has 359 cubic square feet of room on the inside. Comes with diesel, comes with Bluetooth. Also saw a couple of other vehicles thrown out there as well from the show. If you want to know more, go to testmiles.com. Throughout the week, we're here 24/7 with all your latest car reviews, news, and information. You can read Jeff's stuff, Jeff Zerschmidt, on testmiles.com, and in the Oregonian, John Vincent is in the Portland Tribune, and we are here next week with another show. I'm Nick Miles. This is Test Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.